I just turned it on, so they should have.
Call our meeting to order, please.
Get people around.
And we will begin with the taking of the roll. So Mr. Whitlash, if you take the roll, please.
Sure. John Wyckoff,
Here.
Doug Bruce,
Here.
Eric Spoonmore,
Here.
Joyce Poling,
Here.
Adam Teese,
Here.
Jim Silverstein,
Here.
Jay Bear. Not present.
Jay is in Rome visiting with the Pope as we speak. So, and let me acknowledge with us today is Isabel Piedmont Smith, who's president of the city council, and Sydney Zulik, who's also a member of the city council. Thank you very much for being with us today. The second item on the agenda is the treasurer's report. So I'll turn this over to Mr. Spoonmore.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is a very important report for the board, and as noted during the approval of our initial budget, we're submitting a proposed revised 2024 budget for our review and approval today. With your approval, will then work with the city council administration to submit the request to the Monroe County Food and Beverage Tax Advisory Council for their review, which is a required component of this process. And we'll get their recommendation. Assuming that we get a positive recommendation, we then seek approval of the additional appropriation by the city council. So that's kind of how the process works. I'll get into the schedule of what that looks like here in a minute. But this proposal builds on our current budget that we have of $250,000. The requested additional funds provides funding through the remainder of the year. So that's going to be important to have that funding in place. And Mr. Underwood will present the individual numbers here in just a moment on what that looks like. Much of the request is contained in category 3, which is the services category, professional services. Internal include services that would be provided by the board's attorney and controller. Professional services external include services such as the owner's representative, construction manager, pre-construction services, and other professional services, including possible update if necessary of the market analysis. And then other include services such as the design and maintenance of a website, which again, we appreciate Mr. Bear creating that for us in a very economical fashion for us. So the schedule of the way that this works, we know that the city council is going to be going on summer recess, I believe, at the end of June, at the end of this month, June 19th. So we are hoping that before, and we'll work with the city on this, that we can get a resolution in place before they go on their summer recess. That at that point, while the council's on recess, we would seek the fat tax approval. And by the time they return, when the council returns from summer recess, we are hopeful that we could get their approval for a vote on the budget that we have approved here today, if we do approve it. So any questions on the process or what we're going to be looking at here? If not, Mr. Underwood, you want to present the numbers?
Sure. Thank you for that. As Eric noted, our original budget was $250,000, $1,000 in category 2. Majority again was in category 3 for professional services for Jim and myself, our owner's rep. The updated architectural design, insurance, and other, which we had kind of noted looking for a website. Our revised budget goes from $250,000 to $600,702. That includes additional funding for legal representation, controller, professional fees for our owner's rep to get us through the end of the year. No change to the preliminary architectural design. Insurance, this county's indicated that they'll cover us for this calendar year, so we will not need those funds. So that's a negative decrease of $15,000. And then again, for the economical design and upkeep of our website, we were able to reduce that by $3,500. And then we did add in the $75,000 for the CFC reconstruction that Deb talked about, which is kind of the maximum number that would get us through for that this year. So our had a decrease in the category 2 of $500 for supplies. So the additional request is $350,702, again, for a total revised budget of $600,702. And you can answer any questions. I will add on the architectural design fees, at the end of last year, there was monies that had already gone through the city council appropriation process, as well as the FAB approval, and there were POs outstanding at that time. So we're anticipating those funds are still available, and architectural fees will be covered directly through the city. We would review and approve those, and then submit it to the city for payment at their installment.
Any questions from, well, first of all, let's see if there's a motion to approve the budget request, and then we can have discussion and questions. So is there a motion to approve the budget request? Okay,
Second.
okay, moved by Joyce and seconded by Eric. And so now let's open it up for questions. Mr. Teese, did you?
You answered much. Thanks for the answer.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? Okay, seeing and hearing none, there's a motion to approve this budget for submission to the city council. All those in favor, if Mr. Whitlatch, if you take the roll, please.
Sure. John Wycart,
Yes.
Doug Bruce,
Yes.
Eric Spoonmore,
Yes.
Joyce Pauling,
Yes.
Adam Tease,
Yes.
Jim Silverstein.
Yes.
Okay, so that being a unanimous vote, thank you, and we will move on then to the next item, which is item 3, which is interviews by the full board as a committee of the whole for of 3 potential construction managers for expansion of the Monroe County Convention Center. So at this point, I will turn this over to Deb Kuntz from JS Held and have her move us forward.
Great. So today we have 3 construction manager as constructor interviews today. It is F.A. Wilhelm, followed by Shield Saxon, and then Weddle Brothers. You may recall from our last meeting that the small group of the board recommended these 3 for interviews. Following the interviews, by the end of the day, Friday, we're asking each member of the CAB who was present today for all 3 interviews to score and to provide those scores to us. They will be averaged together. Price will be a consideration as determinant of best value. And then ultimately, a single scorecard will be the determinant of the selected CMC, which will come, we will make a recommendation then at your next meeting. So that is the general process that we'll go through. We have names already, so you know who we are. So we'll turn it over to you to get started and give you about 50 minutes to, and in those 50 minutes, we have one time for questions as well.
Great. Thanks, Deb. Well, we're very excited to be here today. Thank you for the opportunity. I've been doing this for a long time, and I have never had a welcome CMC interview signed before. So thank you for your that was a nice touch, and appreciate all the hospitality you afforded us today. So before we get started, we're going to start with introductions. My name is Molly Burns, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development. My role on this project will be to help with communication strategy and marketing the project.
My name is Aaron Bishop. I'm an operations manager with F.A. Wilhelm. I'd be responsible for overseeing the project through pre-construction and execution, and also making sure that the team has everything they need to execute at the highest level possible.
And I'm Tyler Blank, pre-construction manager for this project. I'll be on board at start of pre-construction and throughout the buyout process.
I'm Chris Daly. I'll be the on-site construction manager for F.A. Wilhelm from construction all the way through to
Tom Horton, project superintendent. Glad to be back to Wilmington. I was a superintendent on 4th Street Garage.
Thank you, guys. Another important team member who was unable to be here today is Stacy Carey. Stacy is the president of Reliance Engineering, which is a certified WBE firm. We have a long history working with Reliance on a variety of projects around the state of Indiana, but they'll be helping with testing and balancing, commissioning, and quality control services. Stacy's on an extended vacation with her family in New Zealand, so that's a pretty good reason why she's unable to be here today. The presentation that we prepared for you today, we'd like for it to be conversational, so please ask questions throughout. We want to make sure we're covering what it is that you want to know. We've prepared a presentation that highlights our approach to your project. Again, our approach is based on what we know today. It's very flexible, and if we are selected, we'll work with you to deliver this project in a way that best suits the CIB. The flow of the presentation is we're going to start with pre-construction, talk about the buyout project, and then move into the construction phase. Because of the timing of the selection of the CMC, pre-construction is critical and will provide a lot of value to you. So this is what the emphasis of our presentation will be on today, is the pre-construction phase. So to talk about our organization, I'll turn it over to Aaron.
Thanks, Molly. And wanted to thank the CIB board for going with the CMC phase or CMC approach to the project and really getting the CM integrated early in the process. I mean, that's really where the best value is. And I think you guys are doing a great job with how you're setting this up for success. So you've met the team in front of you today. It is by no means all of our team. These are the ones that you'll be interacting with as kind of face forward individuals with the CIB or with the convention center as we move through pre-construction, construction, and turnover phasing. But wanted to highlight some of the individuals that aren't in the room with us as well, so that you kind of get an idea of the rest of the team. Helping Tyler out, we've got Katrina Nibby and Mike Myers and Chris Holyfield. Katrina is an estimator, very experienced. She's great. We've worked with her on a number of jobs similar to this one, and very thorough in her approach and processes. Mike Myers and Chris Holyfield are both design professionals. They're actually originally, we started engaging design professionals as part of our pre-construction staff to help support us on design build projects where we control more of the design. What we found though is integrating them into the CM process really helps us specifically with our ability to translate owners' needs and also interacting with the design teams through the pre-construction process. We're builders. We focus on building. A lot of times we get kind of stuck in that rut of we need to go out there, get in the ground and start doing that. But they help us communicate at a level that looks at value engineering from a design standpoint, code requirements, and things that oftentimes get missed by CMs. So it is nice having them on board. They're here to help supplement Schmidt, not replace or push anybody around in that scenario, just really to help us on our side. Also joining the field side with Chris and Tom is Aheka Sanchez, experienced project engineer with us that's working on a city of Indianapolis project right now. And we'll be excited to have him out here full time on this project as well. And then Robert Phillips and Harold Stinson and Josh Gee make up additional resources that would be dedicated to the project to support specific efforts. Robert Phillips has worked with both Chris and I on a number of similar type projects, and we want to make sure that his lessons learned and viewpoints are built into the early planning of the project. So he'll be supporting Tom out here on site. And then we've got Harold Stinson and Josh Agee from a safety and quality standpoint to make sure that everything's up to snuff and you're getting the building that you guys expect to get at the end of the day. In structuring the presentation and talking about our approach to CMC, we wanted to make sure a few things are very clear to you in the process. And I think we wanted to just take a minute and talk about those, and this should be something that's themed throughout. But three elements that we really try and focus on is transparency. This public forum is a really great example of that. We expect that the process is fully transparent, and we're here to provide open and honest communication, provide you guys with the information that you need to make good decisions and really get the project rolling in the right direction. Risk mitigation, we're a 101-year-old company as of this year, so there's a lot of experience, but relying solely on experience is a short-sighted endeavor. We want to make sure that we're providing you guys with good data to make good decisions, and really ultimately provide good risk mitigation to the project. We'll talk about that a little bit more throughout. There's a theme of the good data, good decisions through both pre-construction and construction. And then ultimately budget and schedule certainty. We understand that this is a revenue generating project, and that at the end of the day, you need to be relying on us for delivering the project on budget and on schedule. You plan for events in the convention center space and need to know when certain things are happening, and we need to take that seriously and make sure that we deliver as promised. So talking a little bit more to the good data and good decisions, from a pre-construction standpoint, we really like to make sure that we're keeping a good touch on the market. We're looking at commodities, we're looking at labor resource availability. We're looking at technology improvements that help us plan the work better and help communicate the work better as well. So to talk about that a little bit more in detail and specific to this project and the convention center growth, Tyler Blank will walk us through his approach to pre-construction.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. If you can move to the next slide, Molly, as we started early on in this estimating approach in the first 90 days, we want to look at aligning the project goals. First off, sustainability. How can we incorporate sustainability into this project? We understand there's potential for it to be a LEED certified project as well. So understanding that checklist to achieve that LEED certification, because that will help drive decisions, drive design, and drive cost as well. Historic building, so the history behind this building is pretty neat. It was originally built in 1923, which is when Wilhelm started, like Aaron mentioned. It was transitioned into the convention center in 1991 and then had its recent renovation in 2012. So we want to understand what renovation scope do we want to do into this building as well to preserve that history for this neat building project. Urban environment, we understand the complexity of working within an urban environment. Tom and Chris will talk about a site logistics plan and how we plan to keep the job site safe and secure working in this area. Diverse and local participation, that's important to Wilhelm on all projects throughout. So we want to touch on that a little bit later with some outreach events and help engage that community, engage those contractors. Historically informed and real-time data. We use both historic and real-time data as we work through the budget updates. It'll be a continuous process as we work through design. Then we use that information to develop this initial cost opinion budget that we'll get into a little bit later as well. Balancing renovation versus new construction. So we understand that the scope is still being determined for this project, understanding what the scope is inside this building to renovate it, as well as how large of a new convention center do we want to build. So we can help guide those decisions by providing cost input on the different options there. And then the baseline estimate, we really kickstarted this pre-construction process by developing that initial cost opinion budget to provide a baseline, if you will, with some assumptions made to get to that stage. This next slide here shows a couple of images that you might be familiar with. These are from Schmidt's presentation, and then Aaron and Molly have been listening into those meetings as well. And Aaron, if you want to highlight our approach here, and then we can get into those costs.
Yeah, Molly and I have very much enjoyed the process. We've been here for all the CIB meetings, listening in, and as we've gone through the site selection process, but this isn't us necessarily recommending the east location, but we really thought it was a good baseline to do an analysis on for schedule, cost, and our virtual design logistics layouts. Based on north, knowing that was off the table as of the last meeting because of the potential payback there. The west having a private landowner involved and unsure of the interaction with that element. And then the south being the most expensive option, we kind of landed on the east as a clean way to look at the project. So that you'll notice in the virtual design and 3D models we've done today and the cost as well.
Yeah, so what we ended up doing is taking this image right here for the east edition, the east new build to develop this initial baseline. And on this next slide here, you'll see there's comparison projects. So we use this as inspiration as well to reference this overall cost. As you can see on the top here, these are all projects that we've built. The top one's Republic Airways in Carmel, Terre Haute Event Center on the bottom left, Turfway Event Center. So a lot of these places have convention style spaces that we use as data points and checks. So a lot of information on this slide, but what we want to point out is that there's a lot of data here, some initial assumptions that we made to develop this initial cost opinion, broke it down by system, Just to highlight a few things here, that the foundations, that's really the key area here in Bloomington. Anything below ground, rock elevations are things that we want to find out early, determine what type of foundation system we want to use for this project. You know, that there's some unknowns there until we get through that geotech and understand those elevations. Second building, we understand that there's a lot of open spaces with these convention centers in general, flexibility there. The steel building will give us that flexibility. So that's what I assumed on that side. And then on the exterior enclosure, for now assumed a breakdown of 50% brick, veneer, 15% limestone and 35% glass, just as a starting point to get this going. On interior construction, a few things to highlight here, operable partitions, similar to what's in this room. We want to divide these spaces up to make them flexible, right, for multiple uses for the project. And then we have some premium finishes for both ceilings as well as millwork. And then mechanical, electrical, plumbing assumptions as well based on the system. So a lot of assumptions have been made. We'd like to review that with Schmidt and the project team to see if we're aligned there. This is not intending to guide the design or by any means. It's just more of a starting point, and just we can tweak and modify it as the design progresses.
And Tyler, if I can interject, I mean, really, there's a lot of detail here, and I know it's hard to read on the screen, but this is all obviously available to you guys. The intent is not really to conceptualize the job and say, this is what your building's gonna look like. It's our experience with these types of projects, and the approach to it is what we really want you to take away. And we wanted to be able to start the process and make sure that we're gaining momentum as we join the team, and be able to give you guys something right away that can be your baseline to start digesting and making decisions with.
So all this data rolls into this next slide, and what you have on the back of your sheet in front of you is a little more detail, but basically this breaks it down in summary by system, both building and site. There was a site component that we didn't really speak to a whole lot, but it's the same type of evaluation as we did on the building. So this can be interchangeable, right? If you want to see it by division or by bid package, however you want to see it moving forward, we can adjust that. And then renovation versus new construction east option. So the 40,000 square foot renovation made some assumptions on scope in this building. It's this pretty nice building, so maybe we can hone in on that. And then the new construction as well that we went through. And let's keep in mind that these include indirect costs as well as contingencies. The full breakdown can be provided, and we can run through that later.
And again, this is intended to be a starting point. You know, the makeup on price per square foot, I know that's always a tough conversation and digestion when you're looking at that. What does that really mean? There's a lot of different ways that we can tweak the makeup of the estimate to really make sure that we're getting the right renovation space, getting the right balance between the new and the old, and the new and the renovated locations, and really tailor it to the job. But again, just a baseline for you.
So moving on to trade contractor procurement. So as we work on developing the bid packages and get it out for bid, before that happens, we want to have a diversity outreach event. What this does is to help engage the community, it brings in diverse businesses to learn more about the project, learn about opportunities, how can they fit in, if we can modify packages to make it more beneficial to everybody, to get more bids there to help increase diverse participation. This is what we will look towards there. Bidding process, so we will get into developing the bid manual, right? It comes with scopes of form, schedules that we'll talk about, site logistics plan. Want to make sure everyone knows when the project's going and the parameters for the project. We use Building Connected, which is an online site for bid solicitation. So when we're ready to send it out, we'll issue the invites through there, and then we can lock it so that when it's due on a certain day or certain time, they won't be visible until we open those together. And we can do that all in this room or another room, but being part of that process, so you can evaluate the bids and see how they come in with us.
One additional thing on that, what Building Connected is really nice for on public work projects is it documents everything really thoroughly, all time stamped. We see responses by contractors who responded, who didn't respond. And so that that all becomes, for the file and used as needed, but absolutely good record keeping tools.
And then once the bids come in, our bid evaluation process, so, we would run through the scopes of work with each of the bidders, want to make sure they include everything that they're supposed to. If they didn't pick something up, we want to make sure we get it accounted for. Leveling those bids out by scope so we can make the best decision as a team, on who to award, each bid package moving forward. Helps to mitigate risk there and gaps.
Yeah, and so the process we're talking about, pre-construction, so it's early planning, it's getting the job kind of conceptualized, get an estimate to it, start putting a box around it and understanding it. Buy it out with subcontractors, and then ultimately getting to a GMP or a guaranteed maximum price. I mean, that's what you guys are trying to do by hiring a CMC, right? So wanted to take just a minute to talk about that. In doing it, we approach it with making sure that any contingencies or allowances that we're looking at associated with the job are really specific to the work we're doing. You know, we're not going to come in as a CM and recommend that we carry 6-7% across the board as a contingency line. What we would do is we'd look at the specifics to the job and say, we know, like Tyler had mentioned, that there are karst formations underneath the soil here. So we expect that there's some level of foundation elements that we're going to find as we dig down that might have to change. And so we look at that and we specifically build contingencies and or allowances as needed to just support that and make sure that there's no surprises in the job, but not anything blanket or excessive. Transparency through that process. We want you along with us throughout every step of this as we're bidding with the subcontractors to the extent that you guys want to, obviously. But when we're bidding with subcontractors and we're digesting those bids and bid leveling, we want to make sure that this is open conversation and we're talking about what is the right decision to make for the job. If we're worried that we've got two numbers that are very close and one's low, but maybe we're worried that that contractor is overloaded on a number of other projects, those are the kinds of conversations that we want to make sure that you are part of and you're helping steer the ship with. And then ultimately with that transparency, it's sharing those documents and making sure we're giving you guys Excel files so that you can do your own analysis and looking at it. You know, this isn't top secret stuff. We want to make sure that everyone's part of it. And then ownership of risk. At the end of the day, a CM contract, a guaranteed maximum price is a value for the job and a schedule. And we understand that very clearly, and we're willing to commit to that. And if we need to do it in an incremental form and do pieces early, or do it even at design development phase, we're willing to do that and commit to the project where it's appropriate for the project.
Any questions about the GMP process or anything we've talked about as it relates to pre-construction?
Would you just elaborate just a little bit more on the early bid packages and what might be some early bid package ideas that you see already?
Sure. I think the natural one in this scenario, because the RFP contemplated a schedule where we do the new addition and then do the renovation, is separating those scopes into almost separate projects from a bidding and buying perspective. So you'd almost go out and do the addition first and then go and do the renovation second. Obviously, that would then carry risks and opportunities. You'd have opportunity to continue design on that and hone that to really what you want to see there. But also risks in, you know, are you worried about escalation or commodity changes, or what's labor doing in another year if I'm not locking in a subcontractor to commit to that. Other elements that we typically like to do is if we're doing steel buildings or anything that's related to the long lead. I know right now we're seeing switchgear. Anything else?
Yeah, so it depends on what this project design entails, but typically switchgear in the panels as part of early procurement. Air handling units, depending on what they are. We want to try to specify and design to items that don't have a long lead item or standard units versus custom. And the generator, we assume that maybe there would be parts of this building that will be backed up on a generator. So that tends to be a long lead item as well. Early procurement of those, depending on when they need to arrive to the site for the schedule, we'll study that.
There's an opportunity in doing that as well. Oftentimes you'll find that there are vendors that are in the diverse or small business community that may not be able to do the whole project, but we could separate packages to be able to go buy switchgear or go buy air handlers and actually carve those out to create some of those opportunities that wouldn't otherwise exist. So there's some strategies in those conversations that are beneficial as well. So moving from pre-construction into construction, we wanted to again go back to that theme of good data equals good decisions, good planning equals cost and schedule certainty, which is what everyone's looking for. We use sophisticated tools for doing this, not just in pre-construction, but construction as well. You've got on the back of your placemat some renderings of the building in phased format. So we're looking at the schedule through different phases of the job, and what that would look like logistics wise. That's a tool that we would use to plan the project out. In fact, we're working on a job in downtown Indianapolis right now where we're using that just to talk about groundbreaking. It's not even for planning the job or anything going on right now, but just to be able to communicate. Laser scanning, virtual designing, construction, and BIM tools, having interactions with an existing building like this, we'd look to employ laser scanning as part of that. So that when we go to fabricate steel, say there's a bridge connector to the building or any kind of elements that are touching the existing building, you'd want to know exactly where that steel is prior to fabrication so that you're not having to rely on the old survey and eye measurements, right? So that really takes the guesswork out of it so that when it shows up on site, we know everything's ready to go. We're not going to run into any problems. CPM scheduling, we've talked about the 3D version of it. There's communication tools and then there's planning tools. The CPM scheduling P6 is something that we do internally. We're happy to share any of those tools, but they're a little bit cumbersome for use in regular meetings. So it's something that we always do and have to do in the background. But we'll communicate them in much more easily communicated tool formats. And then cash flow and manpower projections, you need to plan for when you're going to spend money, what fiscal year you're going to spend it in. We understand that, and putting good projections to that and using all of our historical data on where those elements need to be ordered in jobs and making sure that we have a good tight schedule tying into that is very critical. So to talk about these tools again in more detail specific to this project and the convention center, Chris and Tom will kind of walk you through their process of construction.
Yes, well, as you guys probably know, Wilhelm's number one on safety. As this job comes along and it develops, we know more about it. We'll come up with a good plan for safety for the public in the urban environment and material logistics. 4th Street Garage, I use it for an example. That was a good project for us. It was not uncommon to have 30 to 40 trucks in there a day. We had no safety. That's from the demo to the revamp. So pretty proud of that myself. And I'll hand it over to Chris.
And kind of speaking more about, safety in an urban environment, that's going to be super critical right in the middle of your downtown. This is similar to, I did the Kentucky International Convention Center project in Louisville, which is also right in the middle of downtown Louisville, bordered by city streets on all sides, that we need to communicate to all the stakeholders. So it's going to be the board, it's going to be the operators of the convention center, it's going to be all of our neighbors. There's no way that our project doesn't impact everybody in this area. So it'll be super critical to communicate. And we've got a bunch of different tools and ways to do that. We're also going to communicate our safety plan, maintenance of traffic plans, detours, whatever that looks like. We're going to have that communicated well in advance, so everybody knows what to expect when we get to that point. All of those tools also feed into our schedule development and schedule certainty. So we're going to take our manpower surveys, our long lead material surveys, the existing convention center schedule, any city or university schedule items, football games. That'll be important. There's going to be a lot of people walking through downtown. We got to make sure that's safe. And we're going to have that all built into our schedule so that there's no surprises. So we have everything anticipated and accounted for. So. Tom?
Yeah, it's project planning and delivery. I can't emphasize enough. It's about scheduling and communication. Through look aheads, subcontractor meetings, which I might add that the owner and facilities management would be invited to those if they prefer. Logistics and materials and equipment. There's just a lot of communication. I just can't emphasize it enough. And being in an urban environment, safety is the number one thing for us.
So what you see here, this is one of our tools. This is CM Builder, and this is just an example of what it can do. But this is showing using the east option, just the flow of the project of, putting up the site perimeter fence, working on any of the subsurface foundations, working ourselves up through the schedule. So once we have an actual BIM model for your building, it can be inputted in here so you can see your actual building, not just a bunch of assumptions that we made based on, end up being just sort of a big square here in a second. But you can track the progress of it, and all that information this is a video format that we can link to your site so that if anyone in the public wants to see where it is and across the bottom of the schedule, you can watch the video and we can keep it updated. And it's a great tool to show any closures, if we have to do something for a bridge connector across college, then we can show what the detour is, how long it's going to take, what's involved, and have that all pre-planned in advance.
And not only communicating to our neighbors and kind of with the owner and adjacencies to it, but also, if Felicia's booking, a convention in next February, you want to see what the building's going to look like, and you want to use this to really drum up interest in the convention center and what's going on, and here's what's changing in Bloomington. These tools are really impactful for that. We can import Schmidt's design once it's wrapped up, or at least once it's visualized, and be able to do that for you guys.
It's a lot easier for most people to watch this than to try to go through it.
Digest
Get those like it's over here. So another example of one of the tools, we've done a cash flow and manpower study based on the budget amounts and the assumptions that we made for the east, and this can be adjusted. But basically it takes our schedule and we've cost loaded it. And then we translated that over, and in the bottom here, it's looking at production rates for the different finishes and things that we have in there to get up to what our expected cash flow is every month. And then what the expected manpower would be. And in the middle, that's October through December of next year. It would look like about 150 men a month for that 3 or 4 month period. So depending on what the end schedule is and what you end up doing, that the shape can change and adjust, but we have this as a starting point. And we also know from labor wise that labor is available. And we don't have any concerns about that for the schedule duration that we've been given.
Yeah, it's not just a reactive tool too. If there's limitations on incremental funding for the project or anything like that, that's something that we can look at. We can level in our CAC projections to make sure that we're working within the means of what you have allocated annually. And really shape the job to what's available or what the expectations are. This is also based on a schedule that we put together that was in the RFP response that assumed the new addition, 14-month, and then a 6-month renovation on the back end of that with very little interaction between the two. That's obviously something that can change to the extent that the convention center can still work within the space and we can all figure out how to do the design right. So, if that wants to be shorter and there's a need to be done by a certain date for a certain event or something like that, we can always look at that and rebalance those tools. And ultimately we do this tracking because I know there's questions about labor concerns, and the construction industry has been incredibly busy over the last decade. Everybody's seen that. And our area has been no exception to that. Bloomington's been very busy. Indianapolis and the state of Indiana in general has been very busy. So there's always questions about where is the manpower, is the labor available to actually build my project and commit to it the way we talk about. Being the largest contractor in Indiana, we have very good purview over that. Where is the labor? What is the US CHIPS Act doing with the EV battery plants, and where is Ford's Blue Oval project at? We really understand what all those projects are doing, the timing of them, when they start, when they stop, any of that push, they go, get tabled for a little while. And that really helps us understand the lay of the land better than any of our competitors out there. Another element that's unique to Wilhelm is our self-perform capabilities. One thing that we do as a CM is we don't walk into a job assuming that we self-perform, but because we are a self-performing contractor, we have those available resources in the event of a failure or any issues on the project. say you have a contractor, your steel contractor over commits on their manpower or their schedule. A typical CM would have to go in through a default process, maybe even go rebid the work, and it would slow things down, or work with a bonding company. In those scenarios, we have alternate tools to be able to solve those problems as well. We have the labor availability to either bring additional labor to them and crew them up, or ultimately just supplement them and replace them as needed. And that's something that we would be able to work with you guys on to have the right solution for the right instance. But what it all leads to is schedule certainty. We have the resource availability to back up the schedule and make sure that it is actually delivered on time. So those are kind of the challenges. That's the harder construction side of things. I think there's opportunities as well on the softer side of what we do, and Molly's going to talk about that a little bit more in detail.
This is a highly visible project. There's a lot of interest in the project, and as you move forward to the construction phase, there's going to be a lot of increased interest because of the location and the size and the magnitude of this project. You know, you've got a lot of people who are walking, biking, and driving by the site every day. So there's going to be a great deal of interest, and we're willing to support that. You know, our job as your CM is to market the project. So one of the ways we'll do that, you know, Tyler mentioned outreach. You want to get a lot of subcontractors interested in this project, and we'll do everything we can to generate interest for the project. Other things that we've done or can do, you know, this is going to impact businesses in the area regardless of which option you pick. When we worked on the 4th Street Garage, there were a couple of restaurants that were greatly impacted by the construction because their docks backed up to the construction. So we met with each one of the managers of the restaurants and found out they had 2 primary concerns: deliveries and trash removal. So we were able to create a site logistics plan that minimized the disruption on their restaurant. And I think they were very pleased with how that went. Other things that we did when we worked with the city of Bloomington was we provided information that they communicated to the public on updates for the project. The website that Mr. Baer just created is a great tool, and we could use some of that 3D modeling that Chris just talked about, as well as other information, so you can communicate and keep the community informed as well as engaged. You know, and this is also an opportunity. It's a nice construction project. We can engage local students, whether at the high school level, Ivy Tech, IU, who have an interest in design and construction, and bring them on site. And then finally, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of job site tours. You know, Talicia's going to want to bring event planners to see what's happening, and we would make sure that we could provide a great opportunity, a great job site tour for people to see. So again, really, the goal is to keep people informed and engaged. So as we wind down, and I see we're getting short on time, so I'm going to save my closing comments for now, but just would like to turn it over to you for any questions that you might have.
I'll start with one. Tell us a little bit about how you have had success recruiting XBE, MBE, WBE subs in projects that aren't in the big city, not in Indianapolis, right? Bloomington, other Indiana submarkets of Indianapolis. And that's important to us to have that kind of diverse representation. Give us some sense of your background in that, your levels of success, and how you've been able to achieve those goals for the communities you worked in.
Sure. And we might bounce this one back and forth a little bit. I'll start with, we worked with IU on the North Student Housing is what we call the project, but I think it's called Walnut now, the Walnut Student Project. We had goals with the school on that one, had outreach events. We satisfied the goals, exceeded them, I think, by a few points on that one. Yeah, I think was in our RFP response. As well as, and this one was a big challenge, was the IU Health new hospital on the other side of Bloomington. That one had large goals, and being a larger project, those are always tougher to engage because the smaller businesses need to be able to perform at a higher level and take on more work if they're going to want to perform on those, or you have to break them down into a lot more packages and manage the packages at a smaller level. In both cases, we've done a mix of those things, have been successful in those. So those are two off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but
one we talked about as well at the 4th Street Garage. We did outreach events on that, reach out to the community. We were, I think, about 27% on that project for diverse participation. And Aaron brought up a good point earlier.
we have opportunities for a new construction and a renovation, separate bid packages where if someone, a diverse business thinks that the new construction might be too large to handle, maybe the renovation piece makes a lot more sense. Maybe they'll just bid that and be more successful there. So increasing those opportunities as well will help with diversity and participation.
Our spend rate on the hospital was 21%. On the Walnut Grove Center, it was 15.8. And on Fourth Street, that Tyler it was closer to 15%. We've had success in this community.
So I would add a kind of follow-up to what Adam just asked. And that would be, and probably in the same sense as, how would you go about on a project of this size, ensuring that we were trying to maximize maybe local contractors, local subs, local labor? Do you have a process for that as well?
Yeah, we really try and marry those together, but both take intentional approach. And I think it's more than the outreach events, right? And I think an outreach event is something that in our industry has almost become standard on the larger projects. It's more about finding out who the players are, what their capacities are right now, who's got work coming out of their ears and who doesn't, and then finding the right opportunity for those contractors. You have to call them, you have to sit down with them and talk about the project, ask what hurdles they may have to engaging in the project. Well, I'm busy. Well, what if I shifted that work a month? Does that change it? Are you off that other project and available for this project? And those are the types of conversations you really want to have to make sure that you are fully engaging the resources and not just saying, hey, we've got an opportunity. Oh, you missed the boat. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, during the budgeting process, we would like to engage those local subcontractors to participate in these updates, provide their input. It helps them become familiar with the job, before it comes out for bid and gets it on their radar, their schedule, so they can plan for it, be more aggressive.
What trades are you seeing right now in your current CMC related work that are proving difficult to estimate? Because they're either having dramatic labor fluctuations or their pricing of materials are difficult. What are the trades that you think will influence the design of this project that we need to be aware of as we think about it?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I would, without knowing the full scope and what this building is going to look like, I would think electrical could be one of those, mechanical HVAC systems could be one of those. I think only for the most part would be pretty straightforward there with the piping and fixtures. Architectural items, steel items, I don't know if there's really a whole lot there. I'd say it'd be more on the electrical HVAC side.
And one of the things that our team brings to the table with Reliance as well is they're professionals in commissioning and systems management. So, when we're looking at systems and trying to decide what we're going to do to heat and cool the building or dehumidify, having that early input on what will work and get the end user something that's satisfactory and really what they're looking for, but might be a different system than the engineering firm was initially thinking. Having that backstop to kind of question and ask that is really nice for that same purpose.
I'll ask another, let's see, I've got two here, but, looking at our preliminary, you guys seem to have done a pretty good job looking into what we see this project as it starts to form. What do you see as our potential biggest roadblock?
So from my point of view and an overall strategy point of view, I think you guys took a project that was 4 years ago you were working on and tabled it for a little while, brought it back. I applaud you for getting the design updated during this last couple of months. I know that slowed this overall process down on the selection of the CM, but you're going to start with something a lot better. I think from my point of view, joining that momentum and jumping in and making sure that we're in step with you guys as you start and continue to carry that momentum forward is going to be really critical. I know you talked about the escalation per month and concerns around that. We have the same concerns. We want to make sure that we're locking contractors in and really making sure that the the values are secured. So as early as, and fast as we can do that stuff and make sure that we're not slowing the process down as we integrate with you, would be my biggest concern.
Yeah, and earlier I mentioned the existing conditions, the unknowns, what we don't know below the ground. When I drove by the site on the way here, there's overhead utility lines running through it, splitting the site. So understanding how that comes into play, if those need to be relocated below ground or around the site early on, that could take some time to get into play there. But getting the unknowns out of the way, renovation scope. You know, when you get into renovations, there's things that you could find out that you don't know there as well. I assume, you know, there's gonna be, some potential risks there that we'll work through and mitigate as well.
And again, the timing of this is great. I mean, you'll have your full team together in order to really identify these problems and digest it early enough in design to work around any of those problems that we run into. So it's on a good path.
So you mentioned cost, locking in to avoid cost escalations. So how do you balance that with also trying to get the design as finished as possible so you get everything in? How do you balance it?
It absolutely is balanced, and it's a question that's, you know, it's different in, for each job. You know, it's really appropriate for the risk model and what's important to the job. I know that this being taxpayer money and that you've already seen, you know, a time slip and what that may do to your actual scoping of project, may want to have you trying to lock work in early. So doing some kind of an incremental GMP so that we can get to that place. You have time, and it would be appropriate in normal circumstances to wait, have design fully finished and then bid and buy the work that way. You feel most secure in your execution that way. But it absolutely is balancing a conversation for everybody at this table. You know, it's what's appropriate for the job, what's the best way to spend the money and figure it out and get it moving forward. I don't know that there's a one size fits all answer.
Yeah, and I think determining what set of documents that we want to go out to bid for the public, working with Schmidt, determining how far along each of the different design components are, mechanical, electrical, architectural, structural, civil, determining what that set of documents looks like and helping get as much information in there as we can to help answer any questions that the bidders may have and any uncertainty there.
And you've noted a couple projects that Schmidt, you put that on your placement, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
Projects you booked with Schmidt.
we have, yeah.
And that's also why we have Chris, and also not named on there, but Ted Schwartz is an architect internal to our pre-construction team. They really help us bridge those gaps in those early documents. So say we do want to do a GMP off the design development documents, they'll help us understand all the gaps and what's not really drawn and what's not coordinated yet, and make sure that our pricing would be holistic in those scenarios and we're not missing anything. So that gives us extra confidence in those areas. Yes.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions about the cost opinion study. And I know it's conceptual.
Yeah.
So the June 4th, 2024 date that's noted there, is that assuming a break ground date of June 4th, 2024?
No, I just based it on today's date, and we have some contingencies in there anticipating that's gonna be in the future as well.
Okay.
A lot of assumptions made from the initial images, so we want to talk through those, but.
So even if the groundbreaking, I mean, we would be able to break ground until probably, 2025 would be earliest. So that those contingencies are going to build in these.
Yeah.
Costs. Okay. We tried to anticipate.
I just want a clarifying question, and this may be where I'm going also, but this is not an all-in number. This is not all of the costs, because it doesn't have architectural fees or other things. So this is not a true comparison.
Right.
Partially comparable, but not truly comparable.
Yeah, and that was gonna be kind of part of my next question. The design costs, soft costs, is there any way that you guys, and maybe this isn't a question for you guys, but maybe that could be more assistance here. Is there like a rule of thumb percentage?
20%.
Okay, so,
Add 20% to that, and you get an all-in to that.
okay,
It's just a
Everything.
rule.
It is.
be essentially for that 100,000 square foot option, 112 billion. Okay,
So I've included some cost for a kitchen.
Yeah.
You can see there, understanding how large of a kitchen do we want to build. I know there's a spot allocated for it. I think the furniture at Bethany would be the biggest soft cost.
Yeah.
That we would, that's in that, say that 20% range, so.
I think that we're right at time, so unless there's any other burning questions that we have, we will say thank you to Wilhelm. And we will ask you to depart. You can log off and depart and
explain it. Why us? We're gonna help manage your risk.
On this, on this.
At the top, at the top.
Okay.
There, yeah, come directly to the. Here, turn your phone down.
IT, stepping away, sorry.
Apologies.
Sorry about that. Again, so, how we're gonna help manage your risk are going to be, cost, schedule, and delivery, right? Those are the key components, let's face it, of really any project. Delivery is really important, and we understand the, goals and the XPE, participation, and we're gonna talk at length about that as well, and how, we can, really benefit from that on this project. So as we talk about managing that, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to, we've assembled a collaborative team here, and you're gonna meet them here in a bit. We're gonna go talk about some budget control and methods to do that. Lessons learned, not only lessons learned on previous, convention centers we've done, but also our work right here, in Bloomington, and you're gonna hear more about that. And we're gonna add another component to that, and that is the convention hotel. So as we talk about those things, we think it's important to really be collaborative on that. So I do want to go ahead and introduce the team if I could. Dave Burchard here is our project executive. Dave has done some of the high end projects at Shield Sexton over his 39-year career at Shield Sexton. Again, I should have said at the beginning, we only brought our key team members. We certainly have more. Mark Winters is a project manager. Mark will been with us 9 years. Mark's going to handle the day-to-day once we get things rolling if we're successful in the project. Chris Harrison is our senior superintendent. Chris has 29 years experience at Shield Sexton, and again, done a lot of marquee projects for Shield Sexton, but also here in Bloomington. And again, I'm not going to steal his thunder, and he can explain some of those. Eric Smits is our pre-construction director. Eric has 25 or so years at Shield Sexton and leads the whole pre-construction efforts from the estimating side of things. Adrian Russell is our director of DE&I and procurement. We've been fortunate to have Adrian with us for 4 years, and he's a real asset to us as far as the XPE. And again, we're going to hear from him at length about that. Garrett Holland is going to be our project engineer, part of a Harmon team. And Garrett will work with Chris and Dave and Mark in the field, working on, the submittals and all those things that need to take place. One I didn't have listed here, but wanted to mention is Sean Mulholland. Sean is Vice President of Corporate Development, and Sean's going to speak to you a little bit about the hotel. What I wanted to point out there, if you noticed, if you look, we have 164 years of construction experience within this team and 144 years at Shield Sexton. And we think that speaks volumes, and that's what we think is, you're gonna hear from us talk about collaborative. That's important, and we're gonna get more into that as we go through the presentation as well as some closing statements. So I want to jump into that, and Eric, if you could kind of talk a little bit about the cost side of things, please.
Hi. As a pre-construction director, I'll be involved in all the design meetings, all the design process, and also be responsible for our cost estimating side. So when we talk about managing cost risks, it begins with pre-construction, right? So in this case, pre-construction is the budget, it's the scope, it's design development, and it's verified by projected cost estimates. So it's important
to get that right because, you know, we're trying to maximize the amount of scope within your budget so you can get the biggest bang for your buck. And, you know, we have to do cost estimating to verify that the design is within the budget, not over, not under. You know, if we underestimate project and then it comes in over budget at the end of the day, then we have to stop, regroup, value engineer, cut scope, and that delays the project. On the other hand, if we overestimate, then the design team cuts scope to stay within budget. We get our bids at the end of the day. We could have afforded a lot more project, and they're not happy with that. So accurate cost estimating is very important, and it's the key to that process. So that brings us to the budget controls. So the first thing we like to do is establish a meeting with the design and the owner, understand your goals and what you're trying to achieve, the schedule milestones, and then we'll assemble an early estimate, really a benchmark type estimate. We have a historic cost data. We have an extensive estimating staff of 10 people, 6 of which are senior estimators. 1 is a mechanical electrical specialist. We have a lot of partners in the subcontractor community to help us with costing. And again, we have in-house MEP estimators. So all of those we use to we'll leverage that to put together an early cost estimate that we can verify if the budget looks like it matches the scope. So that's kind of right out of the gate. And then with the design collaboration moving forward, we do like the team approach. We'll be present and active at all the design meetings and work with the design team and the owner, continuously estimating the design progress so that we keep tabs on that and that we can make real-time decisions. And the other key part of that is long lead items. And we're still struggling from the supply chain issues of COVID. And there are several items that take a year to get. Electric switchgear, for instance, is still a problem. So there are probably 3 or 4 key material items that we can identify and put on an early procurement list. So we talked a little bit about continuous estimating. Typically, you know, the old way of doing it was design phases. There's a conceptual phase, there's a schematic design phase, design development phase, and then a construction document phase. And we would typically do a cost estimate at each phase of design. And the problem with that is it's several months in between each step, and you know, things can go off the rails a little bit from a cost standpoint if we're not monitoring that. So with continuous estimating, we don't just stop and wait. Continuously update as we get new documents, we vet out new ideas, different design directions, and we can inform the design team and the owner of the right decisions to make to keep the project within budget and again maximize the scope. And this process really generates better design documents. And again, it's all about maximizing the scope for your budget. And this little shield we have here kind of represents a collaboration model of the owner, the owner's rep, the design team, and us as construction managers all working together with communication, coordination, cooperation to build the best project that we can for the owner. And then Dave Burchard, who is the project executive, will also be involved in all that pre-construction effort along with me. And he's going to talk a little bit about the procurement process.
Thank you, Eric. So, managing the delivery risk begins with an efficient procurement process. We actually start procurement during the design collaboration. Our team will listen very well, clearly understand your entire scope of work. Our goals are to know your priorities, communicate your scheduled milestones that must be achieved, and to expedite long lead time components, as Eric had mentioned. We must collaborate with the design team to develop well-defined bid documents and very well-defined scopes of work for the separate bid packages for each specific trade. This will minimize risk to attract high-quality subcontractor and supplier bids. We're very experienced to lead the public bidding process. Our team will evaluate a strategy for multiple bid issue sets to expedite the schedule. Within each bid issue set will be the multiple trade-specific bid packages. For example, set number 1, we must get the site ready for construction. And that'll begin with the site demolition and site preparation set, depending on the specifics for your selected site. One very important scope item will be the utility impacts to feed the new building. And often will include the long lead time components such as air handler units, electrical switch gear, as Eric mentioned, those kinds of items. Set number 2 will often be a structural issue for the foundations as well as the building structure. And then set number 3 will be our largest issue set, MEP trades, and then the multiple architectural trades. Set number 4, we may possibly have a final issue set for some select finish trades. Safety is another risk, and it's the number 1 priority in our Shield Sexton culture. Safety is very important to you as the owner, to our subcontractors and suppliers, as well as the local public. Our team will communicate our safety plan early and often, along with safety requirements within our bid documents. Our team will work together with Adrian to maximize the competitive bidding environment, and Adrian will describe that in more detail now.
Thank you, Dave. And one, of course, we're speaking to the managing of delivery risk. And quite honestly, in construction, so much risk can be mitigated through an effective procurement process. And myself serving as director of procurement as well as DE&I, I'm working very closely with the project team here, even as we aggressively get out in the marketplace and work with local contractors, work with the bidding community to make sure that they have all the requisite information necessary to ensure a strong turnout on bid day. And that's what you want in any public bid project. That being said, Dave and I, we worked very closely together, working hand in hand with the Capital Improvement Board in Indianapolis, even as we deliver on their goals as it pertains to working with local contractors, particularly XBE contractors, and Shield Sexton serving as a mentor to those firms. So Dave, he's been very instrumental in that. And we're very proud of our success in working with the CIB in Indianapolis. Together, this project team, we want to implement that exact same approach here in Bloomington and working with Monroe County area contractors to get them on this project. We are no stranger to the public bid process, and we embrace everything that comes with it. That being said, once again, managing delivery risk, timely communication, that is so very imperative. Eric, he mentioned through the pre-construction process, as we engage with the contracting community, there's so much critical information that we're able to gather through effective and timely engagement and communication. That is so very imperative. We're able to identify the long lead items that need to be pre-ordered. We're able to identify, what holes are in the marketplace and where we need to cover. And we're leaning on the relationships with our contracting community. We're leaning on those relationships so that we're able to plug in the holes where necessary. That being said, once again, timely communication, that's getting all information out early so that once again, we can get that strong turnout on bid day. We're engaging with local subcontractors. That includes XBE firms. Any and everybody that wants to participate on this project, it's up to us to be aggressive and getting the word out to where we can make sure that they have all the information necessary. And all together, our procurement process, we're leaning on effective partnerships. Harmon Construction, they're not here today, but this is a contractor, an XBE contractor with Shield Sexton and Harmon. We've enjoyed a long-standing relationship working together for many, many years. Harmon Construction, they are a Southern Indiana firm. And that being said, of all XBE contractors in the state of Indiana, none compare to Harmon Construction as far as the volume that they are able to self-perform. And so we're very proud of our relationship with Harmon. Once again, they're not here today, but they're a contractor in which we've worked together very closely, and we're going to lean on them. We're going to lean on them as they even help us to get out into the marketplace and know who's out there and where we can find participation. We'll go to the next slide. Once again, these are results that we're very proud of. Each of these 3 projects that you see here on screen, these are public bid projects which Shield Sexton and Harmon Construction work together on. One being the Metropolitan School District of Washington Township, the Indianapolis-Marion County Community Justice Campus Project, then the Gainbridge Fieldhouse of the Future, Pacer Sports and Entertainment, the many projects that went into getting ready for NBA All-Star this past winter. You know, once again, these are projects in which not only did we embrace the client's goals, but we were able to exceed those goals. And that's a testament to, once again, the entire team really taking the bull by the horns, getting out into the community, engaging with any and all interested firms, and not shying away from any of the public bid requirements. That's something that we embrace. As you can see here on screen, we are very proud of the results that our program, our procurement process, the results that has been able to be produced time and time again. And so we're looking forward to implementing that exact same approach here in Bloomington and working with Monroe County. So that being said, I'd like to now turn it over to Chris, who will be able to share lessons learned.
Hello, first of all, I'd like to say I'm a South Side guy. I live in Franklin, born and raised, so I would much rather prefer to drive south than north, so appreciate your vote. We're gonna talk a little bit about some previous projects that I've been a part of. First, the convention center, I was the lead superintendent on that project. I worked hand in hand with our logistics coordinator, the CIB and the event staff there to make a successful project there. And so what's that mean to you guys? That means I'm gonna bring experience of working with the CIB and the event staff to make a seamless and, project. That was a tight site as well. Your 4 sites are tight sites. So we'll bring that experience of working in that area. I've worked literally down the street here on the Hyatt Place, which is the next project. That was the superintendent on as well. That was a nice project. Really busy, Kirkwood Avenue to the north, and then alley to the east, and then the trail to the west. So we're familiar with working in that area. That job was unique because they had rented out all of the rooms for graduation day. So we were planned on being complete a week before that, and a lot of pressure on us to get it done. We were able to expedite that schedule and through prefab. We did a lot of prefabrication on that project with the restroom fixtures and the electrical, and then all of the exterior walls were all pre-built and set in place. The next project you're probably familiar with, it's one I'm pretty proud of. I was the lead superintendent on this project as well as Memorial Stadium addition. This one kind of unique to compare to a convention space, but it's similar because there's actually 15 other sports that are housed in that area and call it home offices. All of the sports teams get their uniforms and equipment from this space. And we remodeled, not only the addition, but we remodeled a lot of the existing facility. We worked well with that staff through collaboration and communication to make that a successful project, which we will implement in this project by remodeling this space that we're in currently. So what's all that mean? Speed, expedition of schedule means more money for your budget. So we'll bring that experience to you. We're also very familiar with our local contractors around here and work well with them. As you can see, this map kind of shows the proximity to the Hyatt Place, which is the yellow box to the north. Your 4 proposed sites in red, and then the existing space here in blue. We highlighted the B line there just to kind of get a reference point. But as you can see, the Hyatt Place was surrounded by existing businesses that we worked very well with. We actually rented a space in the parking garage of that Chase building as our construction office. We worked with the city to close a portion of that alley to give us a delivery zone to get our materials in. And that was a very successful project. We'll do the same on whichever site you guys pick. Here with our site logistics plan, we'll start with that. Make sure that we get, minimize that impact to the public and keep them safe, and secure and obviously a clean job site because this kind of the space that we're in here in downtown, Bloomington. The next slide is schedule development, very important. As I talked about, expediting the schedule means more money on the back end for you guys to put into the building. We see a lot of opportunity here to build the new project and renovate this space at the same time. That does a couple of things. One, it expedites the schedule, but it also reduces cost because the contractors are already going to be here building something. And so we can combine that efforts to reduce mobilizations for the contractor, which then saves money. We'll coordinate phasing and bring experience from those projects that I talked about earlier to this as far as phasing and planning and communicating that with not only you guys, the staff that works here, and then our contractors as well. We talked a lot about procurement in the beginning, and all the way through the project, procurement is kind of the hiccup that can kind of make or break the schedule. So it takes the equipment and materials to be on site to be successful. And we really rely on that and kind of go above and beyond, I think, what most people do. We trust but verify that those materials are in place in somebody's warehouse, that they're being fabricated or started fabricating in a fabrication shop. And then we use a simple, spreadsheet to track those, but it's really more in depth than that, as far as, the frequency that we check on those materials. And then ultimately the spreadsheet shows when they need to be on site. So with that, I'll pass it on to Sean.
Thanks, Chris. We know that you want more convention space. We also know that you want more convention hotel space. And we wanted to provide you something to think about. Why not both at the same time? So Shill Sexton is one of the largest hotel developers and builders in the entire Midwest. As a result of those relationships, we have connections with the hotel development community. In fact, one of our partners were negotiating with the Mill here in Indianapolis or in Bloomington. And so we wanted to take an opportunity to propose that same team expediting a convention hotel to coincide with the convention center expansion project as well. We think that would expedite the schedule through Senate Bill 166, which was passed in 2022. You, as a governmental agency, is allowed to single source, one contract, the ability to design, construct, finance, manage, and have external ownership in a hotel. And so if you elect to expedite this, our team would then be the firm that would come in and do all of that at once in conjunction in consistency with the convention center expansion. We think if we did parallel schedules, we could encourage additional bidders on our project. That would provide the opportunity to maybe lower cost in our bidding schedule. It would also allow us to expedite both projects. And then lastly, if we did concurring projects, we think we have the ability to minimize public impact, road closures, nuisance to the community, and so forth. By building both projects at the same time, we think we can get things done quicker and provide fewer disruptions to the community. So again, this isn't something for you to think about, and we'd love the opportunity to discuss it. Brad?
Thanks, Sean. So again, as we think about wrapping up here, our presentation, again, why Shill Sexton? Well, you've heard us talk a lot today about communication, collaboration. Hopefully we demonstrate that, we have, again, our years experience of all of us working together. We have numerous projects. We worked with the design team, numerous projects. We worked with Deb and Mary on. So we feel like we're the right choice from that standpoint. We tried to demonstrate our budget controls, and again, the communication of those is so important, so vitally important of what that means as we go through the budget process. Lessons learned, again, you know, Chris has mentioned some of those, not only in other projects outside of Bloomington, but right here locally, projects he's done. Potentially the convention hotel, that could be an opportunity, as Sean said. But the other thing that I wanted to point out is, Shield Sexton, 80% of our work, our contracts are CMC, exactly what you're looking to do here. Subcontractors want to work for us that understand that. It's our job to go out and solicit those and find those, as Adrian mentioned, and our entire team, including myself. We have to bring energy to this project. Let's face it, we all know the market is busy right now, but it is our job to drum up business and get them excited about this project. So again, we do 80% of our contracts under this method, and I think that sets us apart as well. So with that, I would like to open up to any questions you have for any one of us.
I'll start. What trades are you concerned about in a size community like Bloomington right now? You're obviously a big player in the state. What trades are bringing you concern, and maybe help us understand how, as we go through a design process, we can take that knowledge and get our best bang for the buck, if you will, understanding what is difficult right now in the labor market related to certain trades. What do you see?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
I think that the biggest issues we see are masons and masonry construction, and then electrical and mechanical. Those trades are really challenged, especially with all the mega projects that are going on, the battery plants, the chip plants, the Eli Lilly and Revenant. Those are all paying higher wages and incentives to draw workers to those jobs, and leaves projects like this in the vacuum a little bit. So those are the challenges. So I think the communication and the upfront, as Brad mentioned, just getting word out about the project, creating energy. Something that we didn't mention is we'll do open houses for subcontractors to come and learn about. We'll do diversity open houses as well to draw experts. So those are the three primary trades we have issues going through. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So does that also, that's on the labor side, does that also relate on the supply chain side too, with the mechanical and electric?
Things have settled down for the most part mechanically. It's mostly custom air handlers that are long lead. Most other things are livable now with a schedule such as this.
As long as this one.
Yeah, from the electrical side, switch gear is still a year. So that's still the biggest issue, the switch gear. If there's a large emergency generator, that can be a problem. I don't think that'll be the case here.
Yeah, I think to add to that, Deb, I think this is my experience. I have to be aggressive with those things. I mean, we hear a year, and I can tell you we have some projects that's longer than a year, right? That we're dealing with right now. So I think, again, that's where, to Chris's point, to Dave's point, being out in front of this and understanding what those materials are and really being proactive and communicating with everybody here to get those things ordered in some fashion as quick as we can, just alleviates potentially, again, the risk, which is what we all want to mitigate and limit.
So do you think that implies early bid packages or multiple bid packages?
Yeah.
In terms of GMP?
Yeah, once we're doing early, if we really fast track it, we do a foundation release and a structural release. And we are really trying to get an early lead time package released, like with the first or second bid package now. So that really ramps up the electrical engineering and mechanical engineering side to be able to determine what size transformer, what size switch gears in given project. So yes, we do push for early packages for those items.
So I have a question for you. So, given what you know about our project goals right now and our timeline, what do you see as, aside from procurement as our biggest roadblocks.
I'd say we just gotta get through design and work collaboratively to do that. I mean, when we looked at this, we looked at, you know, working together as a team to try to get, the site work done. You guys are working on the site location, get the site work done this winter. So it gives us time to get all those packages done, other packages bid, and we're ready to hit the ground running in spring, knowing that we have most of those things bought out, or at least the bigger packages. I think just all of us communicating again and being on the same page to make sure we hit those plans. If we do that, typically things go pretty smoothly across all aspects.
So I don't think we see any red flags. Yeah, that's probably, you know, Bloomington, there's often limestone under that we have to deal with, but I think, Chris, your experience is that, you know, didn't have that problem on the hotel.
We didn't at the Hyatt place.
But, you know, we won't know until we get the geotech.
I think certainly too, hitting the ground running with utilities, we fight that everywhere. It's not just a Bloomington thing, right? But all of us working together to understand those and look at this town needs to make sure that's taken care of.
Could you comment a little bit about your capacity, abilities to self-perform in the context of a CMC project? And give us a little bit of a sense of your history in doing that in these kind of municipal settings and bid markets, and particularly doing that in a size community like Bloomington as opposed to Indianapolis?
Sure. We do a lot of concrete. So we self-perform concrete. We don't do all room concrete. Other companies do it as well. But in a CMC government project, it would be a sealed bid, and typically our bid will be delivered maybe directly to the owner. We need to see it on bid day. I think that's the cleanest way to do it.
Do you anticipate potentially self-performing work on this project?
Yes, we would like to have the opportunity to bid on it, and we would bid that. We would also bid, perhaps if we do a general trades package, we have self-performance laborers and things and carpenters, so we can do doors and all that as well, maybe packaging, general trades. But again, we would bid it competitively with all, as many subs as we can. Then we have the Harmon side as well. Harmon self-performs more than we do, so that would be some of the process with them.
But collectively, you would be less than 20% collectively. You would work
Yes.
together. So, Chris, you mentioned trying to squeeze the schedule, which leads to cost savings. Totally agree with that, but we obviously have a functioning convention center here that has commitments out. So, how do you, and then we have a designer who has a very conceptual design. And I hear you talking about, you know, getting out in the winter with an early package. You know, there's obviously a connection here with design and construction, all of give us more, hurry up, designer, right? And can we get in here and do things on, how do you balance all of that together?
Well, I'll take that again. I think it's gotta be collaboration, right? We have to communicate and really look outside. Okay, so design team says they need X amount of time. All right, well, let's challenge that a little bit, but let's also balance that with what could we do behind the scenes. For example, early site work. Let's understand the utilities. So there's things we can do on our side to help push that along by providing information, being a assistant, so to speak, to that design team. We do that in the water.
And I guess to add to that, you know, at the convention center in Indianapolis, they're very similar to this, where they've got events scheduled out for years and years and years. We worked with that staff. We had a weekly meeting with them and really, you know, understood what it takes to get those people in and out efficiently. And I think they were surprised that we could, you know, work so well with them to make it a success. So we'll do the same here.
So how do you deal with cost escalation, control? Obviously, budget's a challenge on every project. Can you guys dig a little deeper into how do you lock in things? How do you protect the owner?
Well, the first thing is understanding it, right? So during COVID, that's going on. So I started research and I started doing a report. So I do it's now a quarterly report. It was a bi-monthly report for our company. I'm tracking cost escalation. I'm monitoring the RSVs, the engineers news record, construction data, everything, and putting together reports so I can inform our company of escalation. What's lead time issues. So being knowledgeable of it is the first key, and then Brad, maybe you can speak to how we lock things.
Yeah, I think, as I was thinking through that question, I was thinking, again, understanding the design, right? Some things could have more escalation than others, depending on supply and demand. So let's just talk, skin, for example, understanding what the skin might be might help us determine, all right, do we need to add a little more escalation for that, for whatever that could be versus other materials. So I think it's understanding the scope and again, working collaborative to understand where those risks might be and working together to understand that escalation. But yes, we certainly would recommend looking at escalation here, just again, as you mentioned, to protect the budget. Doesn't mean we use it. Different contingencies and things.
It's like during 21, it was around 9%, and 22, it was like 13% construction cost escalation. So, you add up 3 or 4 years that are above average, it's pretty soon you're 30% off, through a couple of years along your budget. So it became a little problem. Things have settled down. They're about 3.5% year over year right now, but there's always news of something happening. So right now, I suggest carrying 5% as an annual escalation, but that's a discussion between us and him and her client, how they want to see the escalation.
So what does your crystal ball tell you about the future?
I think things are going to continue on about where they are, about 3% for the next few years. It's mine. Past performance is no indication.
Right. Right now, it hasn't been for a while.
Yeah. That's what I kind of see. I mean, there's local pressures, and we talked about the labor market being a big problem in certain trades. So even though material cost escalation has declined, labor problems are not. So we got labor shortages, and all the union trades that are up for renegotiating their contracts are asking for the moon now. So they're all wanting 4 or 5%. Up in Northern Indiana, electricians are asking for 12% per year for 4 years in their contract. So they don't get that, but there's a lot of pressure for upward wages. So
You're watching the automakers, see what they're doing.
I think they took a clue from the.
Pulled from their playbook.
I think, Deb, to your question, point in crystal ball, I think that's where, again, we've started projects that I'm involved with where we have to get out in front of this and make the subcontractors aware. If you make them aware of projects coming down the path and they have it on their radar to bid or whatever it is, that just helps them. It's just when you don't communicate that to them and you just call them up and say, hey, or send them out a bid notice. Gotta work that system because everybody uses it.
So I'm curious from your perspective, what makes this project attractive for bidders and what makes it detraction?
Well, I'll take that. I don't know that there's any detraction at all. I'm not just saying that. I mean, we don't know what we don't know yet, right? As far as the design, but I mean, convention center, the size of the project makes it, I think, pretty attractive from probably a skin standpoint. Inside the finishes are most likely are going to be pretty nice. All those things, it's pretty clean. Probably going to be a pretty clean project. All those things attract bidders. And I think that's what we would see over there again.
I think people want to work in Bloomington too. Did you say that, Chris?
Totally.
It's the best city.
You got great local contractors there as well, so that we've worked with a lot, so there's plenty to choose from. But they want to do the work in Bloomington, right? It's in their backyard, so that's an advantage as well to do things now.
And a job like this will be attractive to them. the prestige of it all to be associated with the convention center here.
I was gonna ask that, and I just figured because of your experience here, that you've given the Hyatt and IU and all that, that you have a good relationship with and a good sourcing of local contractors, because that would be important, obviously, for a project like this and how it's funded. But given your experience, you don't see that as an issue at all if you got.
Yeah, we've worked with, I think, all of the major players here in Bloomington. We've got great relationships with them. As a matter of fact, when I first came down here, on the hotel, a couple of them, stayed in Bloomington, right, to do this work. And, we were able to get some of those to, they didn't want to travel to Indy, but we were able, since they were able to come up to Indy because they knew that we had a good relationship, we're going to treat them, with respect. So they followed us up there, and I think ultimately increased their, potential as well. So
That's where the partnership with Harmon Construction comes into play as well. Because not only do we have the relationships and the presence, but Harmon, they've been in this community for over 60 years. So that being said, they're able to put the two together and really lean heavily upon relationships and the trust that has been developed over these many years and decades.
Questions?
Did I hear somewhere in there that spring 25 is feasible for a construction start? Yeah. I know a lot of.
Start next week.
yeah, we're ready now.
We're ready to, but yes, I mean, from our standpoint, yeah, there's got to be a lot of work done.
Or Schmidt's listening in.
Sarah's priority.
And just for the record, you guys have worked with Schmidt.
That's what I said. That's what I said. We have a long-standing relationship with Smith Associates, with Deb and Mary. I mean, we have many projects, too many that probably. So I said, from the collaborative standpoint, it works. It works.
And I guess just to add on to that, we've never really left Bloomington, although the school's not building as much as they used to. We're currently on a project out on the west side, building for McAllister Rentals, a new building out there. We just finished up a apartment building over on the east side of town. So, we're here, we're ready, we're, established down here. We want to come back, maybe more.
He's biased as well.
Yeah.
To say he wants to work.
Congress.
Great. Thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you. Thank you.
Probably just.
There's a means.
Chris, can you mute?
Yes, sir.
It doesn't show it.
That's okay.
Oh, it's mine, it's mine.
I'm between this.
Oh, really? So you need this to be.
I
just. Yeah. I made this next to that.
Okay. I'll pop out.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Okay, we got everything ready for this?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, our final interviewer today is Whittle Brothers, and we'll turn over to Chris, and he is going to lead us forward.
Okay, thank you, Debson. So just to start off, I'm gonna hand it to Lee Carmichael for our introduction, and then we'll go through the process from there. So, Lee?
Thank you, Chris. And the good news is we are your final interview that you had to sit through this morning. And we'll try to keep it somewhat interesting for you. But first and foremost, thank you for this opportunity to interview. We don't take it lightly, and we really appreciate the chance to present our case to be your partner in this project. Intro for myself. I know a lot of folks here, but for those that I don't know, my name is Lee Carmichael. I'm the CEO of Whittle Brothers Construction Companies. I'm a lifelong Monroe County resident, graduated from the Kelly School of Business. And as far as construction experience, this will only be my 43rd year in it, so we'll try to work that up some more as we go through. This is an exciting project for our county and our community and our city. I think it's some of the best use of public dollars that will happen. Not only will it benefit the current residents and organizations who use the convention center so much, but the expanded use and utilization and opportunity to bring in more out-of-town visitors for our restaurants and stuff is really, really exciting. And we would love to be a part of it as we go through there. Again, a quick intro to Whittle. A lot of you know us, but try to give you some facts that you may or may not know. This 2024 will be our 78th year in business. We were founded in Bloomington. Our corporate headquarters remain in Bloomington. We have offices in Indianapolis and Evansville as well. So we reach a good part of the state as we go through. We are 100% employee owned. We formed an ESOP back in 2013. So everyone you see here today is an employee owner. They will have the attitude and authority to take care of problems, to take care of issues, and address whatever you need. So I hope that's important to you as well. Just for reference, we are a union contractor for our field forces. I think that says that we pay excellent wages, outstanding benefits, and I think that should be a requirement for public dollars that are spent for the workforces that are there. For project delivery, Whittle does a lot of different ways to deliver projects. We try to meet our clients' needs. And right now we have all these ways going on, but we construction manager as an agent for the owner. We can be construction manager at risk, like this project is. We're a design builder. We have a community project going on in Rushville right now as a design build. We're also a general contractor. A lot of work we do may require us to be the low bid, going in and be the general contractors who come through. We're also a trades contractor as far as like concrete, site development, and other issues through there. But what I hope this says is this well-rounded background gives us a unique perspective on all aspects of construction. We know the current trends, we know the current cost that's going on. And I think that will be a benefit to the whole process as we want to land cost certainty as you guys make decisions about how to move forward and those type of things within our estimates. So that background gives us the basis to do those things. The other thing is we know local subs and suppliers. They will all have to bid to get their portion of it, but we know their capacities. We know their estimators. We know that a lot of different things that we hope we can generate the interest
to help them be the successful and low bidders on these projects. Keep as much of it local as we can. And the last thing about Weddles I want you to know is we are committed to sustainability in our own operations, in our own office, and also in the projects we do. There's things that, so much of it comes through design, but there's a lot of things we can do on the construction end as well, as far as waste management and other issues. We have lead APs on staff. We have people who understand those processes, and we are committed to sustainability. We have a robust recycling program within our own offices, and it's just part of who we are as we go through. I want to leave no doubt that this would be a very important project for Weddle. I don't think any other person you can be talking to, any other firm will have the understanding and feel for this community and for the project as we go forward. And I know no other firm will have the passion for it that we'll have as we go through. It is a really perfect size project for us. We do projects from 2 million to 160 million. That's what we have on the books right now, of all ranges, but this fits right in the wheelhouse of our perfect type of projects, whether it ends up being 40 million, whether it ends up being 80 million. That is right within our sweet spot as we go through for our company to do. We also understand the cost of delayed completion, not only to the folks that are writing the checks for here, but also for our communities, for the restaurant owners, for the club owners, for everybody who's helping pay this restaurant tax on the promise of getting more business, more people in. It's costing them, but I also know it's costing for every month of delay of completion. We have some ideas. It'll take working with the whole team, but we think we can advance some things and really be able to meet your construction schedule as best we can, and we'll be glad to explore those if we're on board and go from there. And last but not least, we understand the importance that there are events already scheduled on the calendar through the end of 2026. We want to coordinate with Talisha and her staff to make sure there's no disruption to any of those events. We want to understand what they are. Breaking out rock, you may want to do that in off hours. You may do some other things like that through there, but we'll coordinate with Talisha and her staff to make sure that nothing else goes wrong from there. So what we want to accomplish with the rest of our time today is I want you to meet the team that will really be delivering the project to you. Generally, in these presentations, I'm never involved. But I asked to be involved in this one just to let you know that you have our commitment from the top to the bottom of our organization. But I want you to meet our team. And then secondly, we want to make sure we get your questions answered. Any questions that you have, we've left plenty of time at the end to address any questions. But seriously, we don't mind if you have a question as we're going through, you want to clarify something we said or ask at that point in time, just ask the question. That's our main goal, is to make sure you have your questions asked. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Chris and the rest of our team so you can meet them. But before I do, I'd be remiss if I didn't get the chance to ask you to select us for this project. So thank you. And Chris, turn it back over.
Thank you, Lee. So a couple things I'd like to address real quick before I get going about me. So we have some members of our team that are in the audience. For sake of time, we didn't have everybody up here. I'd just like to point out that we have Bruce Carter, the president of Weddle, sitting out there. Jimmy Toller, who will be the project engineer on our team. Alicia England, who's our marketing coordinator, and Tice Carmichael, who's our chief growth officer. They've all been instrumental in this process and getting us to this point. I'd also like to note that we did list Force Tech as a partner. We did not bring them with us today just for the simple fact we don't have enough time. We want to be respectful of that. But Force Tech is involved with this process because of their expertise and the audiovisual and technology component. They're going to help us ensure that we provide high quality on all those aspects where we may not have that background. So they are WBE. They also will represent us as a partner in this project. Also, as we move through, I will do introductions as we go. So between each component, I will tell who's who and what their role is, and then they'll give their piece. So a little bit about me. So I moved to Bloomington about 20 years ago. Intern with Weddle Brothers when I was going to Indiana State for construction management. Moved here after graduation. Hired on as a project engineer, project superintendent, project manager. had a couple of successful projects with the Monroe County School Corporation. They then offered me the opportunity to come on as their director of building operations. Thinking that I wanted to do something different, I took that opportunity. I left Weddle. I did that for the next several years. But after I did it for a few years, I realized I want to get back on this side. I really enjoyed this side of stuff. Owner's rep's great. I understand what you're going through. I've done this many a times. I like this side better. As the project executive on this job, my goal is to be involved from start to finish, planning, preparation, pre-construction, project delivery, commissioning, closeout. I want to be that main point of contact throughout the entire duration of the job. Yeah, I have my team and they're certainly able to answer questions, but I want to be that point of contact. If something's not getting resolved, you need something, you can call me, I'll address it. And this goes well beyond the completion of this project. So one thing I wanted to share before I hand it off is I had an incident the other night that just kind of resonated. I thought I'll drop that in. I was at dinner, I got a phone call. It's after hours, it's 7 o'clock or so. Don't know the number, I answer it. It's a representative from the MCCSC. Hey, we know you don't work here anymore. You haven't been here for 3 years, but we can't get a hold of anybody. We have a major issue. Can you help us? Well, hang on, let me see what I can do. So step outside, make a few phone calls, get a hold of the right people, follow back up, say, hey, they're on their way. They got it resolved. Next day I called. Did they get you taken care of? Yeah. Okay. So that's my level of commitment, whether it's convention center, any other client, any other employer, I'm in it. So with that, I want to hand it off to Kelly. One thing I want to say about Kelly, he's presenting on pre-construction today. Josh Noggle, who's listed in our RFP and RFQ, he's on a family vacation. Kelly's done this a couple of times, so I thought he'd be a good fit to talk about pre-construction. So with that, Kelly, would you like to do your part?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. I know many of you in the room, so I'll forego a long explanation of who I am, but I'm Kelly Abel, Vice President with Weddle. So I'll be involved in executive oversight level. I want to talk to you about pre-con today, but I have also, like Lee, a lifelong Bloomington, Monroe County resident. I, however, have not been at Weddle near as long as Lee. I've only been there 38 years. We have a good time and we have been there a while. As far as pre-con, one of the things I think that we bring is we do have a knowledge of this project. We do have a knowledge of this locale. And, for example, we've worked on projects. I've worked on projects, the sewers and the street out in College Avenue. I've done work on those. We know where those are at. I'm familiar with the 3 sites that you're looking at. We've done work in and around all those sites, so we can be helpful, I think, in the planning and whatever site you pick. One thing that all the sites probably have in common, which is not necessarily a good thing, but one thing I can do with is I would expect that we'll hit something very, very solid underneath the ground, and that would be rock here in Indiana, and Monroe County especially. We've worked with it our entire time here. We know how to handle it. We can mitigate the impact as far as costs, as far as schedule. We can help with that quite a bit, I think. I'm going to go through some things on the pre-con that you've read our RFP proposal. I'm not going to go into great detail on some of the things, but we will look at schedule. And we have in there listed out some different ways in a GMP 1, GMP 2, GMP 3 way that we can do some interim GMPs to get some things started quickly. We think that will help you meet that January 1, 27 deadline that you'd like to meet for occupancy of the new space. We know that beyond that, we have to remodel the existing space, which, by the way, sidebar note, this is the building we're in. I drove a 1976 Ford off this lot one time. I know this a little bit too. But I go back to the estimates. We'll work with the architect and try to figure out the best way we can progress the schedule along and try to meet those milestones we need to meet. We're anxious to do that. We think we can offer some support and insight on that to help you get there. So again, we're excited about that. As far as the estimates, we will provide probably 3 complete estimates. We'll do something early on in the schematic design level phase. We'll do something again in the design development phase, somewhere between 15 and 70%, whatever seems appropriate. We'll do something again at this construction document phase, which will be verifying things that I hope. But that's a process we'll go through. Life cycle and constructability type things. Force Tech, again, somebody we brought on that Chris mentioned them. I think to kind of give you some insight on them, they They were important at Palladium, Carmel, and they also did the convention center in French Lake, the hotel down there. So we feel great about them as a partner. They'll help us through, the intricacies of this building are going to have a lot to do with how technology operates and how you can get different spaces set up for different types of meetings and different size of meetings. So they're important to us, we think, in the pre-planning phase to make sure that we don't ignore that we can build the building for sure, but we want to make sure we get it all right. So we'll be relying on Forstech during the pre-con for that. When we get to the bidding phase, it's, as Lee mentioned, we want to get as much local participation as we can. We'll structure packages so that we can be advantageous to those folks. But make no mistake about it, we are driving a number for you as the owner. We want to make budget. We're going to get competition for the local people as well. We hope that that's the result we get, but they're going to have to compete for it. Similarly, we, as Lee mentioned, self-perform a few things with site and concrete, maybe a general trades package that we might want to bid on. But we understand that we have to be competitive in that, and we'll figure out a way, a process to be fair and equitable with the JS held to come up with some things that way so that the owner's confident that that's been a fair and equitable process, and we'll have to compete it against others. We also understand by statute that we can only do 20% of the value of the project in self-performing. So we understand the statute, we know how that works. We'll be cognizant of that as we go through the process as well. Value engineering. Some of you in the room may think that's a dirty word. I don't. I think it's something that has to be part of the process. I think value engineering can be bad if we wait to the very end after the architects completed all the CDs and everything's out there and we're looking at numbers that came back to us. Then we try to go back into PE. Value engineering, in my opinion, has to be a process that carries on throughout the entire pre-con world. We look at things as they come up. We help you make choices. We say this is a path that looks good or not good. It's our opinion. It's our job to give you that piece of information so you can make good decisions as you go through the pre-con process. We also have in-house a BIM capacity, building information modeling, which is something we think would be important on this job to do, and we'll do it throughout the pre-con process in preparation for the construction. So it's an ongoing thing that will happen throughout. We've done it several times. Any university is a place we do BIM almost every job we do, but we've got on several different jobs now. Like I say, that's the in-house thing we have. Last but not least, in the pre-con world, it's something that we're very, very conscious of, and we know is important to you, is the diversity and inclusion aspect of this. We'll go out and recruit XBE firms, we'll have fairs, we'll have advertising, we'll do reach outs to individual firms. We'll do what we have to do to get XBE participation in this job. In fact, one of the things we're really proud of right now, we've got a job for IU Health downtown Indianapolis Replacement Hospital that we have a 40% level of XBE participation on. We are just really proud of that. And that's the kind of effort we'll bring to you all in this job. So I've said a lot of stuff. I don't know how much of it landed, but if you don't hear anything else from me, hear this. In pre-con, we will drive best value for you, the owner. We'll work hard with the team. We'll work hard with JS Held and Schmidt, yourselves, to figure out what the best value we can get for you in that world is. So I appreciate your attention. And Chris?
Thank you, Kelly. I'd like to move on to our project manager, Andrew Sherry.
Thank you, Chris. So as Chris stated, my name's Andrew Sherry, project manager here at Weddle Brothers. Grew up in and around the Monroe County area, graduated from Eastern Green High School. Following that, went to the dark side of the state at Purdue University. Got my degree in construction management, lucked out, got an internship with Weddle Brothers, and then was hired on full-time as a project engineer. Since that time, I've worked my way up the ranks to project manager. Currently project manager at Indiana University, Wright Quad. It is a 3 bid packages, around $52 million, a 240,000 square foot renovation to be done in a 19-month duration. On top of that, I was on Graduate Hotel, Cook Profile Park, and Park 48, Switchyard Park with the city of Bloomington, and numerous IU projects. Obviously, every one of these projects has unique opportunities. My biggest unique opportunity in my career thus far, like all of us, is COVID. So whenever I was at Park 48 or Profile Park for Cook Group, we received the shut it down notification. At that time, it was completely demobilized in 2 days. come up with a plan of how you are going to protect all the material that we have bought, how you are going to secure this building, and if we call you in a week, a month, or a year, how are you gonna kick this job back off? I had all kinds of time to get ready for that 24 hours. I came to cook, I had all prime contractors in the room, and I had to tell them how we were gonna do this. Unfortunate circumstances, but correct turn. We had a very successful turnaround, and the owner was very happy. As a project manager, I do not only manage our project team, but all subcontractors on site and all relationships with everybody involved in the project. In my career, I understand the importance of safety, schedule, budget, quality control, and very importantly, communication. From a safety standpoint at Weddle Brothers, it starts as individuals, but I think that it's truly backed up with our certification through the Coalition for Construction Safety, along with our Indiana OSHA partnership. Currently, we're approaching nearly 1 million hours of safe work hours with no lost time. I think that speaks numbers for where we're at. How we're gonna bring that into this project is because we are local. We understand the logistics of this project site. We understand when students are here, 4th Street Live is here, all those things that are going on in the community, where the square is and those types of traffic things. So I'll let Tom jump into that as the superintendent and kind of talk through some of those details, but just know everybody up here on this project team understands it. From a schedule standpoint, we understand that we want to be utilizing this building by January 1 of 2027. And how are we going to do that? So day one, we're sitting down with our pre-con department, we're sitting down with our subcontractors, and we're coming up with the logistics and sequencing and establishing these milestones to hit. Where do we have to hit? Not only do we get that buy-in, but we require that accountability by saying, what are your resources? What is your manpower loaded schedule? How are you actually going to hit these dates? And then we have an in-house scheduling professional, Brad, great guy. And we're doing this on a week-to-week basis. So we're not waiting until once a month to update the schedule. We're doing it on a week-to-week. Hey, you said you were gonna do this last week. Where are we at? How are we gonna get there? So we transfer that. Budget, everybody understands how important to this community this building is, but where these dollars are coming from. I think half of them come from me, Trojan Horse, and some of these other places. So, you know, I understand we're using this community for our family, our friends, you know, hanging out here. And so these dollars are very important to us, and we understand that. We're gonna get in there, we're gonna get the bang for the buck. We're gonna understand where costs need to be with all contractors on site and do that. On top of that, quality control. So everybody's gonna tell you that, hey, we want to give you a quality building, but we understand where this will be from decades to come in this community. We understand that after we get this project done, it's not just this room that's gonna look at it. It's our neighbors. It's people that are gonna be using it. It's, hey, Weddle Brothers did this job. We want to be that guy, right? So how are we gonna do that? Our corrective action law. We get in there, Jimmy Toller, project engineer in the back, working with him currently at IU Right Quad. He's going out chasing people with tape measures. We're taking pictures. We're understanding where we are at constantly. We're not just, you know, frame a wall hanging and where are we at? We understand that process. That's going to allow for a smooth transition at the end of the project, the punch list, the turnover, the closeout from an owner standpoint. So it will help everybody involved. How do we get all this to happen? Communication, transparency. At any time on this project, I know that Chris said that he's the point of contact. My phone's open. I'll talk to you about anything and everything you want to talk to me about. You'll know at all times where we are at in the project, where's our cost, where's our schedule, are there any issues? If so, what are, or you want to go to lunch or something, anything. We understand that. I actually did a project in Greencastle Middle School. It was a 10-month renovation in a fully occupied building, middle school students, and kind of felt like a zoo at times. So we took over large portions of the building, and I understood that in these project meetings, the communication doesn't stop at our level. I was talking to teachers, I was talking to principals, janitors, parents actually were calling me and saying, well, you know, what does this tool do? What are my kids seeing? You know, and that open line of communication needs to be there. We understand that communication is what sets a great project apart from a good project. Not only will that be from me, not from Chris, but Tom, Kelly, Lee, everybody that's in this room for Weddle Brothers, and we understand that. So greatly appreciate the time to talk and the opportunity.
Thank you, Andrew. So at this point, I'm gonna ask Tom Platanas to come up. Tom will be the project superintendent, and Andrew's gonna hang out as well as if they get to logistics. I think they're gonna do a joint effort.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, I'm Tom Platana, and I look forward to the opportunity to be the superintendent on this
convention center project. I have 35 years' experience in all aspects of carpentry. I've worked for Wetter Brothers for 9 years. I bring a wealth of knowledge to this project. And we talk about the logistics of this project, especially, possibly the possibility of 3 different locations. Andrew and I have already been talking about, using, it was brought up that we might use this back lot behind the B line for a laydown area in one scenario. And with that, we know we need to keep the B line open and access to it and keep the community safe as well. So with barricades and signage and having people there to, make sure that when the equipment crosses, there's no one coming and blocking pedestrians through the traffic.
Yeah, so just to build off of that, we have discussed this, we've looked into this. No matter where this project goes, we understand what is gonna be impacted, right? So Switchyard Park was a very good project for us where we had the beeline that we had to keep operational at all times. We understand that it's not as simple as, hey, we're gonna shut the beeline down because we have traffic there today. It's a 2 days heads up. We understand what it takes to protect that. What has to go out in the community to notify everybody out that, hey, this is gonna be a reroute, this is what it's gonna take. We understand that the courthouse, the square, all these restaurants, whenever it's summer and 75 degrees, who's gonna be trying to park on our job site, trying to sneak in, trying to sneak out. We understand when the students are gonna be here, maybe we need to up our manpower to keep observation, to keep that on-site security, to, help with our signage. So those are some things that we've looked at, Tom and I have looked at, and will continue to look at and manage from the side. So thank you, Tom.
Thank you. I've lived in Monroe County and worked here for 23 years. I've contributed to numerous projects in Bloomington and Monroe County. I've worked at City Hall. I've worked on multiple projects for MCCSC. I've worked on dozens of IU projects. I've also worked on multiple Bloomington Hospital projects. My career as a professional union carpenter has progressed to a superintendent, reflecting my commitment to excellence and leadership in the community or in the field. One of my core beliefs, like Andrew, is transparency, honesty, and clear communication. These values are crucial for building and maintaining a strong relationship with the owners and their representatives. As a member of Wetter Brothers team, I'm committed to upholding these principles. You can count on us to always keep all parties well informed and to address concerns and promptly and professionally. If selected for this project, I will prioritize in creating a safe and positive work environment. It is essential for our team to minimize the impact to surrounding businesses during construction. To achieve this, we will work to maintain constant communication with the event planners for the convention center, ensuring that all ongoing events proceed without disruption. Public safety will be a top priority. We will implement measures to ensure the well-being of everyone in the vicinity, striving to keep the impact on streets, sidewalks, and the beeline to a minimum during construction. I have a deep understanding of what it takes to build a project in this community. Events such as student move-in, Lotus, 4th Street Fair, graduation can significantly impact the project. Our team will work diligently around these events to ensure minimal disruption. Additionally, we developed site logistic plans for all 3 locations, ensuring a tailored approach to each site to maximize safety. Having managed sites with up to 20 subcontractors at any given time, I recognize the importance of early communication and setting clear expectations to ensure productivity and adherence to the project schedule. Coordination and collaboration are key to success, with potential of a hotel building site going up nearby during this project. Our team is prepared to work with the other companies to keep progress on track for all parties involved. My extensive field experience allows me to anticipate potential issues in the building plans and address them proactively. This proactive approach has proven to be invaluable for my career and will be a cornerstone in my leadership on this project. At Wetter Brothers, we are committed to maintaining the highest standard of safety, quality, and attention to detail. Safety is of utmost importance to us, and we strive to ensure that everyone on our construction projects goes home safely every night to their family. We take pride in our work and the impact it has on our community. I appreciate the opportunity to share my role and vision with you today.
Choosing Weddle Brothers means choosing a team that values excellence, safety, and community. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Before I hand it off to Kelly for our closing remarks, I just want to highlight Weddle in the community and who we are. So as they have mentioned several times, we've been in Bloomington, our corporate office has been in Bloomington for nearly 8 decades. We've done hundreds of projects in Monroe County for just about every entity. At some point in time, we've touched something of theirs. Several of the community partners we're associated with are up here. We have members of our team that are on many boards, many of which use this facility on a regular basis for their events. I think something that is significant is 50% of our employees call Bloomington and Monroe County home. 70% of our employees either live in Monroe County or the adjacent counties. We're all coming here, and this is our hub. So one thing that I want to point out, I heard this last week at the super meeting, the city council, county council meeting they were talking about, and it kind of resonated with me, the fact that they said, everybody unanimously said they're ready for a convention center. That's important. They want a convention center. But they don't just want a convention center. They want a great convention center because they're stakeholders. We're stakeholders too. We're in this, we live here, we eat here, we play here. This is our home. We want to be associated with it. So with that, I'd like to hand it off to Kelly for closing remarks.
All right, thanks, Chris. I had to wear my pre-con hat a minute ago. Now I get to wear my vice president hat. And I get to do the fun part, which you can read up here the 4 points we think are important why Weddle points. I'm not gonna beat those to death and go through them off script just a little bit here, so bear with me, team. First off, it occurs to me, I just want to say I'm proud of who Weddle has become. I'm proud of Weddle. I'm proud of what we've done in this community and the projects we've done. We've literally done hundreds of projects in this area and all of them things that I'm proud of. So proud of that. I'm also excited about the team we go out to operate for. I think this team's a great team. We'll get the job done. We'll do it well. We'll do it on time. And we'll get all the things that you need to bring that best value we talked about. That's important. I think the team is a great team. We care about this project. I was in this building in 2012 when the feasibility study was presented for the last time. I think there's one before that. That said, we need this. 12 years ago, they said we needed this. So here we are today. We're getting close, which is exciting for all of us. We were also a part and an advocate and supporter for when the food and beverage tax got passed. We were there. I remember sitting in the Nat U Hill room for a long, long time. It seemed like that night when that finally got done. But we were there. We were part of that. We were part of a task force. We got asked to look at some initial schematic designs right before COVID when they started this process and we had to stop because of COVID. And we were part of that. We got to weigh in on that. So we're here today. This project is meaningful to us. We've been involved in it for a long, long time. And we want to do this job and we will do you a good job. So I would ask you, please consider us as your CM partner for this project. Thank you for the time and attention. Questions?
Yep. Questions? Or that's our presentation. Have to answer any questions you may have.
That's the first one. We're not seeing hands up. First, talk to us a little bit about what trades you're seeing in the Bloomington market that are struggling in terms of your predictability of them. You obviously have a very good grasp of the Bloomington market. We're particularly interested in that as we start to design this project. We want to be thoughtful of how to use our dollars best as possible. Tell us a little bit about what trades and or material procurement challenges and or successes too, things that are going well now in maybe more.
You know part of the answer, so it's a trick question.
Yes.
You know, the HVAC and electrical worlds are difficult right now. There's a lot of work out there, tons and tons of work. One of the things we were able to do at Value Health to help them out is we did a really early equipment procurement package, both in terms of the HVAC equipment and the electrical equipment. So it's going to be dependent on how quickly site selection happens, how quickly Schmidt can get to their level of comfort to be able to let go of some of those things. But I think that's a huge opportunity because those things, depending on what you end up getting, you know, you're anywhere from 9 to 14, 16 months lead time for some pieces of equipment right now. So those things are coming down, will get better, but I think they're still a challenge and something we ought to be cognizant of to look at. I think that's an opportunity to gain on schedule. I'd love to sit down with Schmidt and brainstorm that and see how we could make that happen.
Adam, masonry is really tough to get folks in right now. There's gonna be a masonry component of the, that would concern us to how many bidders we can get in that area. Depending on what else is going on, drywall can be a challenge from time to time as well, but for the ceilings are different things, but we work through those every day. We figure it out and we get there.
Appreciate that. I've got a question for you. Speak to us a little bit about, your relationship with, working with an owner's rep and perhaps even, any experience you might have with, and I assume working with Schmidt, who's our architect for the project.
So I'll go first with that. So having served as an owner's rep for several years, quite familiar with the process, what goes on the backside, how difficult it can be, some of the challenges. You're kind of stuck in a point where you're there to represent the owner, drive the job and make sure you're getting best value and high quality, but also making sure that you're keeping things progressing. So also when I was in my previous role, I completed some projects with Schmidt, had a very positive relationship with them. And everything at the end of the day, there are projects that we were proud of and happy to see how they're delivered. But I think again, it goes back to our message of transparency, clear communication. If there's something that's questioned, let's sit down and talk about it. Pick up the phone, let's have a meeting, let's go through it. There should be no secrets. We should be an open book and we should work with the owner's reps and with whoever they designate. This is a publicly funded job. We understand that. And part of the community members, we have responsibility to ensure that we're delivering the right value, the right project. So that goes back to that constant, transparent communication. I'd also like to let Andrew speak to that as well.
Yeah, so at IU Right Quad right now, I'm working with Schmidt. So if they were in this room with me right now, we have those daily conversations. We're putting hot lists together and prioritizing items on the project that really keep the needle moving and stuff. So have a great relationship with them. We go out to lunch every other Friday after our owners meetings here in town that they're in town for. Actually know a few of the folks that are going to be involved with this project specifically, that I'm working with currently. So great relationship there, great communication. I think that if they were in this room, they could definitely speak to that transparency in where we're at from a progress update at all times. So.
I think I'd add the owner's rep, they have a responsibility to you to protect your interests, and we understand that and respect it. It's like we had it, Mary and I worked together for a lot of years. I'll put the number. So that is a advantage, I think, to that. With the owner's rep piece of it is not a complex, it's an advantage, I think. So.
Yeah, in terms of budget and project costs for the convention center, as you guys have kind of been following this process along, are there any concerning unknowns at this point to you guys that you kind of have identified that could take things in a different direction from a budget standpoint?
I mean, obviously you have to pick a site. Until you know where you're gonna build, what it's gonna look like, that's a concern. How do you plan if you don't know where you're gonna go? So that piece is critical to me, and I think that's something we just before we even came in, having an internal dispute about which site was best. Kelly has one opinion, I have another, isn't that funny? So, but
Vice President.
He's right.
Can I get away?
So anyway, that's one of my thoughts, and so that's very critical. Schedule's critical, timeline, those are things that are driving this, so.
Yeah, I think Chris is dead on that. The site selection is going to drive some infrastructure things. It's going to drive some foundation considerations, just logistic type things. So there's some cost there that we have to get on top of and control pretty quickly to make sure we're doing the right things. And it drives some other things above ground too, what you find in the ground.
I think though, like just to build off of these guys and what they're saying, like what we've done with Schmidt on the current project, if we do run into any of that, we come to you as a partner. We're saying, here's some options. What do you guys think? What works best for you? So it's not like, hey, here's a problem. Please give us an answer. Usually by the time that we get there, we've got a few different options to come up with to present to you to coordinate with the owner's rep, with the design team and us, because we're looking at this from all aspects.
So from a cost perspective, let's stay on the cost side of this. cost escalation, although it's come down from the last couple of years, right? It's still an issue. So how do you contain that? What are best practices to try to lock in, protect the owner? What strategy?
First thing we do is we try to get as many consultants is the bad word. We involve as many people in the real world as we can and try to get their ideas on what costs they're seeing right now and get a baseline built. It's accurate as it can be. So that to me is very important. If you get that baseline built, it's right. And as you put your escalators on it, the contingencies or whatever we all agree to put on it, that means something. If you're wrong to begin with, you're wrong throughout. So that's to me the key. You gotta get that baseline built correctly. And then we would advise early on, you're probably looking somewhere between a 5 and 10% contingency to hang on to design contingencies and other things. We would put an escalator on things that we know are going a little crazy. If we know concrete or steel or something specifics going a little bit haywire, we put that factor on addition.
I had one question. I see you do some other things, general contracting and such. How big a part of your practice is construction manager risk?
48, 49%.
About half?
About half, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Is that your preferred model? Construction manager, really?
I think it has its advantages. I think the owner gets a lot of advantage out of that in terms of schedule, in terms of expertise with the contractor. I mean, we're comfortable in several different, we have some CM agency projects we're doing right now for different owners, and we'd also do some general contracting. We do a lot of general contracting. So they all have their unique advantages and probably disadvantages to it.
But Eric, I would add, on a project like this, where scheduling is so important. We really like it because we try to drive the GMPs, drive the whole process. Or when you're an agent, you're not holding the contract. Sometimes it's tougher to do that. So this model works really well for a project that has a very tight schedule constraints and things you need to go from there. So again, it depends on what our clients need and what it fits for them. But I think you guys chose the right one for this. Help us get it going and move out of the ground.
So you mentioned earlier about you understand their limitations and the CMC, but there are those that might say, well, but if Weddle can only do 20% of the trade work as a CMC, wouldn't it be better to have them doing more of the trade work? How do you respond to that?
Oh, you mean if we bid the packages outside? I don't know that drives value to the owner as much as we can drive value and help them with the pre-con and getting things there, because we have that knowledge and we can help get those things set up in the pre-planning process. Once it gets to the bidding process, all we can do is react to whatever's been handed to us. So we don't have any influence or ability to adjust there. So I think in that way, we bring a lot of value to the table to how things get built and how the planning gets done and how it gets set up.
And a lot of times we find whether we're a general contractor or whether we're doing CM at risk, we don't reach 20%.
Mm-hmm.
And, the mechanical's driving it, the electrical's driving it, different things, the steel's driving it. So we're not concerned about the 20%, whether we're saying we should do more or otherwise.
That's good to know.
We generally don't get there.
Okay. So a follow-up question that are sort of related to that has to do with bonding capacity. So we have your letter from the bonding capacity and we've looked at that. It's different than some of the others we've been looking at. So how did, the max that is, I think it's 150 million max is what the bonding is. Can you guys speak to the bonding capacity max?
Yeah. They give a letter right now. We probably have $270 million bonded.
Okay.
We work off, we work there. They never refused us any type of bonding that we've needed.
Okay.
We have a great relationship with them. So whatever the amount you want bonded, we'll be glad to do.
So your current, I want this on the public record.
Yeah.
So what your bonding maximum bonding capacity and what you have right now exceeds what the insurance gave you as a letter.
Yes. And
Thank you.
that they are committed to bonding this project. There is no problem with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Kind of on the lines of bonding, if I could interject one other thing we didn't address is our prices to you don't anticipate, some people will come in and push a sub guard program to you where they'll do all that with the subs, and there's good markup on that. When we're at risk, like the mechanicals that would likely be successful on this job, the electricals, we work with every day. And we choose whether we bond them or not bond them as we go through. And I think that really, keeps the cost there, and there's no hidden fees coming through later on to you. I know it's a good product, it's, different things, but when we're at risk, we'll take the risk. We're used to doing that. And if, we get a chance to pre-qualify everybody, and if we're not willing to take the risk, then we'll talk about it.
Well, yeah, that's why, before we shut the computer off and get out of here, say thank you. I know this has been a marathon for everybody, a long time coming, so we truly do appreciate the opportunity to be here today. We'd love to be associated with it, and thanks again for your time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So. I just want to sit there for a second. There, so. Just as a reminder, we have an art public meeting.
Yeah.
So maybe just as to close, so you've heard from the three firms. As CIB members who are here and have been consistently been here for all three, plus the training. Thank you for that extra time. You've been provided the link where you have, so at your fingertips are not only what you heard today, but also what they submitted in the RFQs process, in the RFP process, right? All of it's the whole, what they presented in writing, plus what they've said verbally here, that should be the basis of your final scoring. We have asked that you submit your scoring to me by the end of the day Friday. Just send it to my email, or if you just snap a picture of it, I'll give you my cell phone number. You can just literally send a picture or call me. So if you need that information, just let me know and we'll make that happen. If you would like to score it today, you know, with your head down and want to turn it in, we provided envelopes if you would like to do that today. If not, take your time, take a look at things and we'll go from there. So I think that unless there's other questions about what the next steps are, we will conclude this section. I think that probably concludes this section.
Yes, and thank you. Thank everyone for your attention and the time you've given us today. The goal then is at our June 12th meeting that you will have compiled all the information and you'll be able to come back to us with a recommendation at that point.
Correct.
So unless there are other comments from board members, as I always end these, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.